All right, everybody, welcome to Monday, February 7th, 2022 board work session. So first off, Mrs. Joey, can I get a roll call?
Michael Abdo,
Here.
Daniel Antonelli.
Here.
Chloe Blavitt. Here. Deanne Bonnie. Linda Burks. Cale Perkins.
Here.
Douglas Raising.
Here.
Kimberly Voorhees. Wendy Whitman. Jed Hamburger.
Here.
Trent Bryant. Erica Emmerich. Here. Sharon Guston. William Howard. Mark Schlosser.
Here.
John Turek. And Amy Yohe is here. There is a quorum present.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to B, meeting minutes. So this would be the 12/6/21 board meeting reorganization minutes draft, the 12/13/21 board meeting work minutes, 12/13/21 board meeting voting minutes. Any discussion on any of those? No discussion. All right. We'll move on to C, announcements.
Nothing new. We got a full agenda tonight, Dale. We do have our friends from the YMCA here to present tonight, so.
All right, and we're going to move on to that. D, so it'll be the presentation from the YMCA.
Karen, you want to take the floor? I'll get your presentation pulled up.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kira Shine. I am the Associate Child Care Director at the YMCA of the Twin Cities. Thank you guys for having us.
My name is Stacy Heidas. I'm the YMCA Branch Director and Director of all child care and Cattaraugus and County.
I'm going to start with the presentation while Stacy goes ahead and hands out some folders that we're going to use for just for some information after. So one of the things that we have in Bradford is our early learning center. What we see is that children who have early learning from 6 weeks through school age are more successful in life. We see that there is higher graduation rates, and then there are higher rates of post-secondary education. So that's why there's such a push for early level education. Our hopes is to be able to partner with your school and offer the same thing here. So I created a presentation just to show you a little bit as far as what we're thinking. Jen, can you go ahead?
You say you have one in Bradford, is it in the school? Actually,
No, ours is currently right next door to our YMCA. So we house a 7-classroom childcare center right next to the YMCA. We do have a school age program and 21st century program that goes right within our schools. We're gonna start with a mission moment video just because a lot of communities ask, where does the funding come from? How do we help our families be able to afford childcare? So that video is one of the videos we'll be using for our annual campaign. The Y believes the fact that there shouldn't be one family that's turned away because they can't afford childcare, they can't afford a membership. Every year, all of our communities get together, we do the annual campaign to raise money so that no family is turned away. And it'd be the same thing here, as far as making sure that everyone can afford. Our child care center in Bradford is currently a Star Force center, which means that it's a high quality program. Therefore, what we want to do is any licensed child care center, you want to have a high quality Keystone Stars child care. Our goal here would to be do the same thing as far as have it so that it informs parents that their children are in a safe, respectful environment. And it also has it so that we have our standards and we do lesson plans in our classrooms.
I just have something to say about that. I think it's a great thing you're doing, and my child went to your Y daycare in Olean, because I worked around the street at the bank. But Jed does a very good job about keeping our children in the building for school, so I don't see us needing that part of it, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was just a video to show how we raise the money for like the annual campaign to make sure that even the early, like the younger ages, we could offer childcare. We had discussed the fact as far as school age.
Yeah, one of my long-term goals is it's coming available this year currently. So the 21st Century Learning Grant is available at the 5-year grant commitment. So we'll put in an application. I'd like to work collaboratively with them. And then we can offer that after school for school age children and even our young children as well.
Yeah, and that program is free as well. So it's an academic enrichment program, grant funded through Pennsylvania Department of Education. So, definitely there's a lot of restrictions as to what we do in our program that collaborates with the actual school day to make sure we're kind of bridging that gap and helping the school day to make sure, they can get as much as they need out of the program.
It's the perfect partnership funding opportunity for two organizations like the Y and the school district to pair up on. So we'll go ahead with the implement.
After speaking with Jed, we had kind of discussed the fact of a 3 different age group classroom. So you have infants, it'd be anywhere from 6 weeks to 12 months. The lesson plans are based on helping children continue to develop their first milestones. So what we do in the all of the classrooms is we do ages and stages to make sure that the children are hitting their milestones early on. Do we need to get, speech early on at like 1? Are we hitting everything as far as walking on time, crawling on time? So our infant room would focus on that. The classroom focuses on helping to encourage positive first peer interactions. We were thinking that as far as that classroom, based on licensing, once it was licensed, about 8 babies, 2 staff. The toddler room would be anywhere from 12 months to 35 months. So you'd have about the 1s and 2s together. It focuses on their social, emotional, and gross motor skills, lesson plans on building the child's verbal skills, access to everyday sensory toys, musical instruments, a dramatic play area, climbing blocks, literacy materials, and we focus on introducing that daily routine, just having a schedule.
Plan on the musical instruments not affecting our children that are in here, that it's not conducive of an environment that they need to learn. If your kids are playing a bunch of musical instruments and the other kids are in other classrooms trying to learn, are your instruments just?
Well, I don't know how we would have a music program then.
Well, the music program is clear down there and they are.
Right, surrounded by other classrooms. Come on.
That's what I'm asking. I have a right to ask that.
Yeah, we're looking at a space where that interruption is not going to cause interruption to our academics. We actually looked at a couple other classrooms down on this end and decided to put this program in the library so we can move forward with it because it's going to be removed from the rest of the education. It's kind of a self-contained environment in the library, and it gives us a large enough space to be able to accommodate all.
And the library is probably the perfect place for it, but then where's our library going to go for our students?
Right here in this space, which is large enough to house our books and all of the equipment that's in it.
The nice thing too is that the musical instruments we're doing with them, they're age appropriate and at their level. So something as simple as a baby having a rattle can be, it's the way that we base the lesson plans on and we use it as. So it's like we could sing with them, they could have rattles, and that counts as a musical instrument. So it's nothing like we're gonna be
Not like
over.
big drums or anything.
No, and even if, you know what I mean, it might be like the little hand drums, but nothing that's going to be overly, we want to be respectful of your guys' area too.
Thank you.
The preschool room would be focused on 3, knowing the fact that you guys have a pre-K counts for 4-year-olds. So we would work right with you guys as far as, I know that right now that your guys' pre-K program is half day. So giving parents the opportunity to have somewhere for their kids to go that second part of the day. So it would focus mainly on 3-year-olds, but also being able to offer that for the 4-year-olds, for the parents who need to work all day. In that room, it's lesson plans based on each child's needs, and the staff continue to focus on each child's individual needs. Our lesson plans are very goal-based. We don't look at the lesson plans and say, okay, everyone's gonna fit this, because you all know that doesn't work anyway. So about helping every child, and we're focusing on prepping them for the transition ready to kindergarten, or the fact of prepping ready to come right into your guys' pre-K counts program right here. In the folders, the special events. So this is just some of the stuff we do in Bradford. Obviously, we would work as far as what would be inclusive as far as your guys' school district, because we don't want to disrupt the day. We did like parent involvement days in the classrooms. We did a special Christmas program. We do like professional pictures, field trips to our local library. So we try to look at what's local here and how we can work with different organizations, whether or not, somebody, we just had for one of our field trips because of COVID, we had to change it. So one of the families actually offered and asked, can we bring in our cows and goats? And so we closed off a little back of our gate area and we had them bring them down. And so we're doing field trips a little bit different. And then we did our Halloween party and parade. Go ahead, Judge.
This school, they do a lot of special events.
Yes.
Yes, they're very,
Yes, we actually just started opening back up to do a few things because I've tried to be very careful with COVID. So one of the things that we just did is the fact that we have our swim lessons, so we just were able to offer the parents to come back in, and then I'm planning a field trip to our play zone out in Limestone to be able to get our families to be able to come back in. We're trying, and that's why our Christmas program here we ended up doing it virtually, but still allowing the parents,
So would you be following our stipulations or would you be following your own? We didn't allow parents in for drum broke the heart. They're not allowed tomorrow. They're not allowed in for Santa Sleigh.
Whatever the protocol is in your district is what we follow.
Yes, absolutely. We can still continue to run things virtually, and that's not a problem by any means. And that's something that, the parents are more than willing to do. And we also did the Zoom meetings and let parents be a part that way, oh, hey, you guys want to come in and watch? And we do it that way. Our center is currently open Monday through Friday from 6:20 a.m. to 6 p.m. We do an additional child discount of 20%. The financial assistance available. There's discount for YMCA members. And then I did put this because our corporate partners in Bradford are Zippo, Case, and GRMC. My goal to be over here is to eventually find a company who would be willing to corporate partner with us, which means that would offer a discount to their employees too, to better help the community.
Yep.
And in the folders,
A lot of those conversations have already started with the county offices as well as GFS is interested. So we've started the roundtable discussions. The county commissioners have committed $15,000 to this project as a startup cost for us to pilot it and then possibly take it countywide. So it's on our kind of plate to prove that this can work. So good, sorry.
in the one folder I gave you, if you open it, there's an orange flyer on the left-hand side. So after talking to me and Jed, we had decided that it kind of even community. So we would like to go live. This is a survey. The QR code would go out and it just talks to the community as far as like, has them answer questions like, do you need childcare? What hours do you need? What are the ages of your children? You know, do you have school-age children that you're struggling with before school? Just to be able to kind of get a feel as far as, you know, where do we want to go at from here? So that's there, if you want to take a look at that, and then,
I just have a question. Do you plan on sending these out or giving these people for board votes on whether we are interested in doing it or?
no, the first thing I did is bring it to you guys so that you guys can take a look at it. Because I thought you might want to scan the code and maybe take a look at it first.
I'll repeat the questions. I think it's gonna be important to get the community feedback and it'll give us a feel for what the community is
I
looking
think
for.
it's a good idea too. I just, the way that reads, it almost reads like we're doing it. And I just want to make sure we vote before we.
No, this is for us to collect information so that we can design the program around the community's information that they share. Because there's small adaptations we can make within the program. Obviously, the program has a basis, but there's changes that we can make somewhere that within the time frame. If we see that everybody's gonna take their cup at 5 o'clock, what's the point of staying up until to start earlier in the morning? But small adjustments together, kind of information we're looking for.
I wanted to make sure that as I was coming over, you guys could see the exact survey and what was going out to families so that you would have a better grasp of it too. On the right is the financial assistance form. This goes home with every single family. I encourage every single one of my families to apply for it and tell them it is there for a reason. And then the next thing is the fact of, like, these are our rate sheets, but behind that is subsidized childcare. So I would refer to this as the in my child care center, what'll happen is families will fill out this and they don't realize the fact that they qualify for subsidized childcare. So what they do is they look at income and they say, okay, based on X, Y, and Z, you're gonna pay $10 and I'm gonna pay the other $190 of your childcare. So by this, I'm able to approach the fact, hey, you're in this income, let me sit down and I will help you do this. At first, it seems like very overwhelming to parents, which is why it's really nice. I sit down and do it with them because the end goal is the fact that the parent who wants it is there and that they can afford it. That's always my end goal. In the other folder, who would have that?
I can find out, but I'm okay.
Are these weekly rates or what are these?
These are weekly rates, 94%, 95% of my families are on CCS. A lot of families qualify. The other percentage,
Get nothing.
they get financial assistance from me that goes all the way up to 40%. And so that almost cuts the rate in half.
You don't look like you've gone up very much.
No,
It's stayed the same. I haven't used it in 15 years.
so there, any of,
Only in New York rates are a little bit higher than the town, just because of the living and the community.
so we do try to make sure, I think that I maybe have two parents that actually take the full time. Anyone that applies for it, I work with them, it goes all the way up to 40%, because the end goal is to make sure that it's there for anyone who needs it. In the other folder, it's just, this is a Bradford enrollment that I thought you guys might like to just take a look at it. This is, I do a tour with a family, and this is the very first thing I give them. It just tells them a little bit about my center, and then we sit down and we do enrollment. It tells them like what their child needs. The basic, you know, this is licensing, who can pick up my child, who has what allergies, and then just have their brochure in there. And of course, this is Bradford, but I figured it'd give you like a nice idea of what we do over there. Oh, and there's our parent handbook in there. That goes out automatically too. Does anyone have any questions?
When was it you started in 2020? When did you say you started this program?
In Bradford?
Yeah.
It has been well over 15 years.
Oh, really? I don't know.
It started in a building in a church. And then we bought the building next door to the YMCA in 2020, or 2019. We used to rent to a doctor's office that was right next door to the child care center. We asked them to leave so we could expand our center. So we did a major expansion, added a full kitchen, 3 more additional classrooms to add 45 more kids to our enrollment. And unfortunately, at that time, we opened a week before everything shut down for COVID. But now we are full with a waiting list. So it took a little bit to get back on our feet once we opened the new side of the building, but we do have a waiting list now and are fully full in our center.
We have 7 classrooms in our center, which is the 6 weeks through 4 years old. And then over in my Y, I have my school age that runs before school and no school age because we work right with the school district in Medford. And I have 60 kids over there.
We also have an early childhood program at the CTC, so I think this will open up another opportunity for our students to have internship opportunities right here at home, where they wouldn't have to travel for that.
Yep, we have we have the students at Bradford come to our center as well for that.
A lot of them actually end up, as soon as they graduate, they end up staying on with us and working.
And then with the older age kids, the after school program, hopefully we can get some of our future teachers that want to get involved with that, possibly stay and do some volunteer hours for their senior project, or make them part-time as well, internships. So, yeah, I think it has endless opportunities for us, and it's an opportunity for us as a school district to provide another service to the community that's necessarily here for older your working families or your younger families that are debating on when they go back to work or to stay at home. And I think this gives them an easier opportunity to have that child care program right here in the home district. So I think it's a great opportunity for us.
Did you have an estimate of our maximum number of children we'd be able to have in the program? I know since we've talked about different areas, we have different goals now, but.
I have a guess because until I have licensing come in, for infants, I'm looking at 8. Toddlers, I believe would be 16, and preschool would be 20 or 24.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you guys for having us.
Thank you, ladies. If you are ready to go, by all means, you don't have to sit and listen to my giant budget discussion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to E, public comments on agenda items.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One
Yep.
here.
Your floor, Bill.
And I'm kind of 3. I got 2 in the elementary school and one's not school age yet. Part of my family's local business, Shoe House, my home, I'm an alumnus. Proud to be also a Buffalo Valley community. Been a coach here for 16 years, but I have some concerns that are near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure you guys have probably heard some of these things before, but I just like to air some things out. I'm really concerned about the diminishing of the music and art at the school, specifically the decision to provide 1 art and 1 music teacher for both schools. So I'm talking about up at the middle high and down here at the elementary school. I feel that the loss of these separate positions at each school has done a big disservice to our students, their families, and their staff. I can't, I guess to use the term, the phrase, is the orange juice worth the squeeze here? I can't see the savings to the district worth the cost of losing these teachers and the extras provided to the students. It puts, in my opinion, extra burden on the art and music teacher that has to do both buildings, instruct all ages. They come to collateral damage I see. We've lost a very accomplished art teacher up there at the high school, middle school. We have no elementary band, no sound waves. And I know with COVID, the concerts and art shows, and those things have had to be diminished, but we've seen a great diminishing of those things, in my opinion. And I just feel that it puts strain on already trained teachers as well. And one thing personally, I know that we still have instrument lessons at school. My daughter, we read an instrument for her. Since October of 1, she's had 2 lessons. We pay about $35 a month. And I'm like, what's the point? You know, and I'm not attacking any personnel here. It's just, in my opinion, time and scheduling is a real issue. And like I said, here at Shingle House, I mean, hard Shingle House. Hope has been, and I feel will be the school. We're not a big town, we're a small rural area. I mean, unfortunately, a large number, even in my own extended family, of kids and their families living right here in our district, go to school. And I can't see, you know, how do we get them back? You know, how do we get them to come back here? Is a bare bones approach, you know, the way to go here? I can't see it enticing anybody to come back or even to want to stay sometimes. So that's my bottom line. I ask, if you can, just consider what I say here tonight, and just see the biggest thing that really was a catalyst of this for me was, you know, seeing the posting for art teacher K through 12, and I just get really concerned that we're going to keep seeing less and less enrollment, less and less interaction with the kids. And, you know, these programs, I know that, hey, math, science, reading, all those things, they're the basis of what teaching and learning is. But without those extras, I feel that we're going to just keep losing it so many different ways. Great time. Appreciate it.
Do we have any other comments? All right, move on to number 2, committee as a whole. So A, policy, finance, and facilities.
So we have 3 bus and van drivers for Luccio's transportation to approve. Under policy revisions, policy 610, 611, 616, and 626. These are all based on the bid quotes and procurement documents that come from the federal state level. State level. So we just have to adjust those numbers here. One of the options that we do have is we could just adjust the attachment each year. That would be a procedural change though, where we would just approve the attachment as a change as opposed to the entire policy. We're really not updating the policy. All we're changing is the attachment with a plug-in or in that slot each time that this policy comes up. So it's something for you guys to think about how you would want to go about that in the future. Don't know that we're necessarily updating the entire policy, just that attachment. So
I like to have a whole policy, because I actually do print them and put them in a book, because it's easy to read them and paper from it is on there. If you're actually reading a policy that has 20-some pages to it, I can't through that. I have to write my notes on it. So.
okay, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. So think about that one, but that's the gist of the policies. 1C is the draft calendar for the emergency structural time template that just says we have 990 hours, improves our virtual days, covers us on that end due to COVID. We're way over those number of hours, but it's formality that I just like to have it covered in case something would happen major that we'd let that go. 1B is the EPTO request to conduct the Penny Wars fundraiser. And under finance.
What fundraiser did you say?
Penny Wars from the
Oh, okay.
EPTO.
I thought you said Pin Wars.
No.
I can't hear with the mask on.
Yeah, Penny Wars.
Sorry.
Penny Wars. So that's all I have under finance. You guys have any questions on those?
I
I'm
think
sorry,
you're doing a
policy.
really good job keeping the kids in the school building and
Right,
stuff, so.
right.
Okay.
Finance.
Okay, we're gonna move on to abatements and exonerations. Since we have several new members, I just thought I'd go over, you know, what that kind of means. The language is kind of confusing, abatement and exoneration. When you look up the literal definition, it doesn't really go with what we're doing sometimes. For the occupational taxes that were unpaid at the tax collectors, we ask you to turn those over to statewide tax recovery, and then they try to collect it on behalf of the school district. There are abatements for occupational taxes for those individuals who are no longer employed. Maybe they've become disabled, maybe they have veterans exemption status, etc. The tax collector uses the criteria to allow certain people to be abated prior to turning this over to State Line. State Line can then also do the same thing if someone passes away, or can prove something that they didn't try to prove to their tax collector. But for the most part, this goes on, and it's quite expensive when it goes on to statewide. So it's really good that the tax collectors try to abate as many as they can before it gets passed on. For the realty taxes, those are exonerated and sent over to the counties in which the taxes are collected. So Ceres goes over to McKean County, and the rest of the townships and borough go down to Potter County. So basically what this is doing is this is the acknowledgement of the school district that these taxes are being turned over to these three entities, and the abatements of those occupation taxes that are uncollectible due to whatever reason. So do you have any questions about the listings or a discussion on that at all? Okay.
First one on that agenda is the Northwest Depository concern.
Oh,
So
I'm
it's
sorry.
one to
I
pronounce.
skipped right over it. That's a little bit more tricky. All right, so everybody here knows Northwest Savings Bank is our main depository, and for the school district and for most of the residents here, we all were alerted to the fact that they are closing our branch. April 14th, I believe, is the last day. We have to make alternate plans for our depositing. Our checks, we can deposit electronically by taking a picture of them, but we do have considerable amount of cash here. Most of the money that comes to the cafeteria is cash. Most of our fundraisers are cash. Our admissions to the sporting events are cash. I don't think there's any way we're going to get away from having to deposit to a bank. I did meet with, unofficially, I met with Northwest and discussing, what could happen to the building, that type of thing. It's apparent that they are not going to hand over this bank to another bank to come in and scoop all of their business up. So the chances of a bank coming in is possible, but it won't be coming into that building. And therefore that means further delays on the town, recovering to some type of normalcy. So we have some decisions to make. Not sure at what level we want to make them, but doing deposits every day are not going to be feasible anymore. A 15-minute run to the bank is now going to be much longer than that, more like an hour and 15.
Something similar happened to Austin Area School District. They do their deposits once every 2 weeks. And obviously if it's an emergency, they'll make it every week if they have to, but
Right.
it kind of makes that adjustment.
So
Do we have a safe, like a small safe, but not that expensive? I have 2 safes at my house.
right, we actually have locked areas, but it's not actually a safe. And so it becomes a point of, are we going to want a staff member to take their time and go to Coudersport? Or are we going to allow me to take it to Bradford on my way home? That's ultimately what it's going to be. I'll probably be doing a drop somewhere. Obviously, Coudersport is not on my way home. Right now, I do not charge any mileage. If we do go to this Coudersport route, we would have to have someone use the vans to make the deposit. Sharon also makes bank drops every day. So we would have to start combining our banking efforts. So does anyone on the board have a preference or concern, or consideration on our money being deposited in a Bradford bank when, we're in Potter County?
My only concern, and because I was a banker for 20 years, would be that someone else needs to verify your deposit and you take it with you. Because if something were to happen to you, we have to have two people that have verified that and say that that's the amount of money in there. Like say you have an accident, someone steals the money, or someone sees you leaving, and
Yeah, I can
it's better to
verify,
have two people.
I can verify that.
That would
for
be
sure.
my only concern.
It's part of why I'm bonded as well.
What time, excuse me, what time does the bank close, Bradford?
That's part of the problem. You know, I, as transportation coordinator, have to be here till 4:30, 4:45 every day for the last bus to come in, or at least that's been past practice. Takes me 45 minutes to get to Bradford, and so they're closing the branch in Olean as well, so it's not like I could swing through Olean and make it a little bit faster. So I believe it closes at 5, which means I'd have to be there at 4:45, which means I have to leave at 4. So there's, you know,
We can work that out.
Yeah,
logistically
yeah.
right now.
but we have thought through this process. It's just unfortunate that it's out of our hands. We can't control the bank. We can't beg a bank to come in, and if they're not gonna sell that or allow another bank in that building, then
The only other option is we stop accepting cash and move to a all card plastic transaction,
right.
but that's gonna be a disaster.
Well, I
for
think
sporting
that
events and athletics.
Athletics, I think we would be
Anything else
okay
is-
with. I'm more concerned about our fundraising. And we do a lot of fundraising here with cash. Those are my biggest deposits for paper anyway, is,
And the percentage cost that you pay to be able to use those cards, your fundraising would be.
yeah, you diminish the fundraising availability. And no kid's gonna wanna swipe a card to get a meat stick from the senior class, you know? It's cost prohibitive, it's counterintuitive, whatever.
Just
So
more
we're
of
not
an
trying to
update.
do that. But it may go to athletics, maybe one less thing. But
Are you bonded also?
Mm.
So you could take the deposits too.
Okay. Move on to.
all right, moving on. So then the budget transfers, we have a small list of transfers here. Last year we did amendments to the budget, which was actually altering the budget itself to be a higher number. These are just transfers. This is just moving money from an account that I know the money's not going to be spent in to an account that it should be or has been spent in or wants to be spent in. So there was a list attached to the board meeting in regards to it. It has to do with grants, special education tuition, some administrative movements, maintenance. Our transportation is off quite a bit because of non-public and sporting events. Last year, we didn't have as many events. This year, we have a lot of them, so I under budgeted on quite a few line items for transportation. And the student activity and sports, there's some small things moving there. Would anyone like me to go over that in more detail? So everyone understands it's just a transfer within the budget. We're not inflating the budget at all with this budgetary transfers. All right, then the next one is our 22-23 school year budget. And for this one, we'll take a little sip of water and everybody can, hopefully I get this off.
Popcorn.
All right, as you know, it's budget time. As my administrators know, we had our big meeting last week, talked over things, tried to coordinate as many things as we possibly could. So we'll start with our biggest money. And just so everybody knows, we're not talking about dollars today. We want to talk theory and philosophy. And then next month, when I bring you the dollar figures, you'll have heard the theory behind it, and maybe the dollars will make more sense. Our personnel with our salary and benefits are all fixed. So they're the majority of our budget. We have contracts for most of the staff, including the teachers, the support staff, My contract, most of our administrators, the open contracts are Mr. Hamburger as superintendent, our food service director, Sharon Guston, and our activities director, Mr. Howard. We are going to budget for additional staff because of, obviously, we know we have several positions that have not been able to be filled recently. So we're making sure that we're plugging those into our budget in hopes that we will be able to fill them. We have a possible opening for a long-term sub to cover all absences and help with the RTTI at the elementary. What does that mean? That means we're hoping that we could hire a step one teacher that would be our constant substitute, someone that could float anywhere we need them to alleviate our administrators covering classrooms, which has been greatly appreciated, but not helpful for them. Insurance is slated to increase 8% over coverage in claims. If everyone remembers, 2 years ago, we put in an $85,000 one-time payment. This year, we did a $35,000 one-time payment. It looks right now like the claims that we should come out at the end of the year at a zero. Now, with that said, we just are going to pray that our staff stays and families stay healthy because we are literally, even though we call them, I just lost my words. We call them premiums. They really are the claims. So we are paying for every claim that people go to the doctor. When we say we're 8% is what our premiums are slated to go up, it's because they've told us this is your projection based on age and lifestyle and past claims and what have you. So that's what we're going to hold to for this year, and then hope that at the end of next year we continue to be at zero. But it always depends on the health of our staff and their family. Next section is instructional. With our regular instruction, we're planning to fund programs at the same level as the current year budget. We are looking to add a science curriculum at the elementary with a possible textbook adoption, which of course is something that the board participates in. Our tuition at other districts, we have special education that we're paying for. We have a shared service agreement with other districts. We still have our online platforms that we are currently using mainly at the high school, and we have a $17,000 credit there, so that's going to help our budget immensely. It was $24,000 this year, which is going to carry over to a $17,000 credit. The cyber tuition continues to be steady. We don't have a huge increase. We don't have a huge decrease. But every year the tuition continues to rise per student. And the IU9, we are still utilizing that and offering that to the students because it is a considerable cost savings to the district. The software we discussed is going to be maintained as in the past. We don't have any large purchases and we have no declines. The next section is our supporting services. So our guidance and attendance for the most part is level funding. We're going to increase that travel so that they can go to their conferences for their PIMS and student accounting. It's very important that they stay up to date on all the different changes. Potter County is going to be pretty level with our mental health and career mentor. This year, we still don't have a career mentor, but we're hopeful that they'll find one for us next year.
We're working on some redesign with that career mentor position with the ed council as well. So you might see something a little different. It's split between a couple districts, but it's one full-time person as opposed to two part-time people. So I think it would make it more attractive.
Right. Our technology section is just kind of a reminder of what we're doing. Our telephone and Wi-Fi is going to be pretty much the same. We do have a copier lease agreement that's up this year, and we will be going out and asking for quotes on the copier leases. Our current one-to-one program will be also renewed for our 3rd, 6th, and 9th graders. So that means we purchase a round of devices for those grades, and then they go through with them as they go upward. Our wireless point replacement and our CAD lab. The CAD lab may get done this year with grant funding. We're just not sure timeline wise, if that can get here in time or not. The teacher surface replacement plan, as you remember, we bought surfaces for all the teachers, and we cannot replace all of them at once. So we are going to be buying 5 for damage, loss, breakage, and replacing them as that happens. Unless there is a bigger need, we can up it from 5, but we're estimating maybe 5 a year. And then John is going to be asking for E-rate. That is, there's money out there from the federal government, kind of like a grant, but it's a lot more hard to get. A lot of hoops to jump through, and he has a plan on that. Taxes. So this year, we should applaud our tax collectors and all the homeowners. Our normal tax collection, even when I was in my last school district, it was 88%. And this year, our tax collectors were able to attain 92% collection. That's amazing. And because of that, they're part of one of my budget transfers because we had to pay out more in commission than normal. And so that's going to be up next year.
Can I
What-
ask a question?
Sure.
For how long have we been trying to get the CAD lab up? Seems like that's been for a while.
Well, we've been talking about it, yes.
We've got a CAD lab that's in operation, right? But this is a flash of funding with this federal funding we have where we can invest the money to upgrade that CAD lab to last us for the next probably 7 years. So that's why that's on the list right now.
Oh, I think it's a good idea. I just
Yep.
wonder because we've been talking about it for a while.
The other piece is now that we went 1-to-1, we don't necessarily need a bunch of different computer labs everywhere. We've got the Chromebooks that can do the majority of the work. So now we're going to take some of that money that we would spend on multiple lab upgrades, put that into a CAD lab. It's a substantial cost difference for those types of machines that can run this program. So we're going to save some money by doing this, but it's also going to come from some of the ESSER funding, which we have that now to be able to work with, the ESSER 3 or ESSER 2, I believe. So we're working on quotes. The problem is availability of certain chips, like graphics cards and things like that, that we're looking to put into these machines aren't necessarily available. So that's what's been our hang up since
It's been
everybody started buying the world technology at bulk, right? So since COVID happened. So that's kind of why you're seeing a lapse in our top line. You know me, I'd had that CAD lab upgraded a year and a half ago if I could have.
Thank you.
Mhm. So thank you to the tax collectors and all the people who paid their taxes. It will have a boomerang effect though, because then the amount of delinquent taxes that got turned over won't be as collectible on the backside. So next year, our delinquent taxes will go down some. Board services is going to be level. That's been going well. Legal and accounting services are pretty level. Our legal fees are down considerably, but we like to leave that level funded for the just in case. Our superintendent budget is going to be level. The principal budget is going to be considered level funded, but there's additional consideration still pending, especially with all the changes and what have you that we'll talk about down at the bottom. Health department is up slightly to cover our masks and increases due to COVID symptoms like Tylenol and different over-the-counter meds that get handed out, and all the wipes and everything that she has in that office to keep herself and all the other kids safe. The business office, there's a sharp increase of $10,000 for unemployment fraud claims that could end at any time. So I have to put it in the budget because that's what we're paying out right now. We keep getting notifications that we've reported the fraud correctly. The employee has put in the fraud correctly, but they still keep sending the checks to someone. I'm not sure where it goes. So at any time it could end, but I'm going to increase the budget just in case because I don't even have I've never had a line item for unemployment because we just had so low. Our HSA fees and software are up slightly. Asset inventory, as you remember, the board listened to our auditors every year. They talk about how we don't have an asset inventory. I did try to get one done last year, but there were some issues with software and I couldn't get a quote. So I have a new person this year that seems very eager to quote on it for me. So I'm hopeful, but I do not have any idea whether it would be $5,000 to $15,000. That's the people actually come out and they go room to room and actually like consider every single item that we own. So it's extensive. The debt service will be zero for the first time in many years. This year that we're in was a half a year that we have had savings, and we put that money into capital projects. And that's going to help us pay for our upgrade of the parking lot at the high school. Next year, we're going to set those aside again, and hopefully when we get to the bottom, we can talk about capital projects. However, we do still have the CTC debt. That's still going to be there for many years to come, but it's very small compared to what our normal debt service is. Transportation is holding steady with a possible decrease of $50,000 due to diligent route review and low outside placements to other LEAs. There is an increase to non-public that will be most likely increase as more Amish families move into the area and need transportation. Sports is up this year and will continue to be up because the COVID restrictions are easing up and we're having less games canceled and we're able to travel further away. And of course, we hope all the field trips will return to normal every year. Some of them are going to happen this year. Maintenance, his normal repairs are pretty steady. Gas and electric are steady with just normal increases that everyone's receiving. Our disposal contracts for our waste removal, that went up slightly. Water and sewage will be down. We talked about some things. The borough offers a discount if it's paid by January 15th. So in this current budget, we will be paying basically for a year and a half worth of water and sewage, but taking the discount of, I believe it was somewhere around $900 is how much we saved. And then next year's budget would just be the full year, but at a discounted rate. So from here going forward, as long as we're able to take the discount, it will save the district considerable money. The middle school, high school parking lot ceiling. So the parts of the parking lots that are not being refurbished, so that would be the bus loop and the maintenance loop, are going to get their ceiling done. Custodial and maintenance supplies are expected to be level. He does have some equipment concerns. He'd like to get another floor machine for the middle school, high school. We need to have those electrostatic sprayers on a rotation cycle. He's talked about the ozone sprayer. We haven't dived into it, but we could say electrostatic / ozone until we know which one we're buying. We'd like the board to consider a new transit van. Since we have 2 golf teams and cross country using the vans, this year cross country did not. They were using the buses. And so we're hoping to purchase a transit van that has a larger space for students, larger than what we have now, to help push that cost of transportation down.
That cost versus paying for transportation just in 1 year is a substantial decrease.
Yeah.
Difference between the two. So if you look at that van paying for it over 10 years, it's pennies on the dollar for what it would cost us to have them transported by.
I thought the contract already included all our sports. Except for.
It does, you have to
Well,
pay for them,
It does.
pay mileage.
Yeah, you would pay
But
based
he's
on-
not gonna have to pay that then if you're not gonna transport it.
Right. Right. And also, we'd like the board to consider the Kubota tractor being replaced. I can't speak much about this tractor. I wish Trent was
I
here.
can't, she's on her last leg. You know that sweet smell you get whenever you raise the bucket on a tractor? That's not what it smells.
Didn't we just buy that one?
No.
Or
This is the
Howard's?
big 40 horse Kubota.
Oh.
And he runs the brush hog on the back of the bucket. So what we're looking to do is downsize that machine because we've made up the difference for it with the Bobcat on our last purchase. So between the Bobcat and the smaller tractor, we should be able to get away with the same thing we're getting out of the Kubota. Right now, I think we can put it out to auction or trade it in. We've got some extra equipment that won't go with the new tractor that we would be looking at, but we'd be downsizing to a smaller tractor, have some trade-in value, and then hopefully be able to replace that. So, and that's a once in every 15 years purchase, so it's gonna be a high cost up front, but if you look at it over time. So it works.
The zero turn was,
Zero turn was the most recent.
right,
And that cut out us having to contract another person to cut the grass. And that's down to like 22 hours,
I think it was a lot.
22 hours versus what it was.
I
before, 40 hours a
can't
week.
remember his numbers, but it saved the district considerable money, especially when we had somebody that was coming in to do it for us. We don't have to do that anymore. All right, so moving on to sports and activities. For the most part, those are level funded. We are going to put in, finish the funding, on the track hurdles. We were asking them to do just one set of hurdles per year. And with the shortages and everything that are happening, we're concerned that we would end up with them changing the hurdles. So we're gonna try to do the last two lanes in this budget, coming up to make sure that they're the same hurdles. We don't wanna have a separate, vendor and what have you. So, and the last one is the co-op with Otto Eldred, and Mr. Howard's not here to speak of that. But we think that that's coming up. So it's just kind of a concern, something to be thinking about. The next is our capital projects. Our furniture, we have been upgrading the administrative desks, one per budget year for several years now. The teachers' desks have been a sore spot for for them and for our custodial staff when they move them in the summer out into the hallway, clean the room, move them back in. Some desks are being repaired multiple times in order to make it back in the classroom. So we have decided to try to put two desks per year per building, unless it was deemed that we needed additional desks. We want it to be safe for the staff and for those moving them. The teacher supply accounts are available for the $150. We've been doing that for 2 years now. I believe that they're working well. Faculty lounge updates at the middle school, high school are currently in the planning stages and anticipated soon, using a multi-department approach to full school input, implementation, and even some creation possibilities for making some cabinets. A middle school, high school STEM lab furniture should be implemented in the current year budget, but we'll wait for installation over the summer. Middle school, high school parking lot refurbishment will mostly be paid from this budget using the prior year's reduction of debt funding. But there will be some that will carry over. I don't think there's any way they could get all the drainage and everything in that needs to be done by June 30th. Next is the elementary model for the YMCA Twin Tiers Early Child Learning Center to be located here. We'd have to be consideration of installing a bathroom, upgrading our exterior entrance, interior entrance holding area in order for parents to not just filter into that space. Possible partition installations, carpet and tile considerations, the electrical and HVAC concerns will all take place in order to make sure that we're giving them the environment they need for the age group that they were wanting to house. And the last item is we will have $600,000 for the capital project 5-year plan review, with some of that going towards the remainder of the middle school, high school parking lot refurbishment. So capital projects should be on our radar to review our 5-year plan and make some plans with our upgrades of, maybe $400,000 to $500,000 worth of upgrades.
I know you're not doing big dollar amounts for this tonight, you said, but before we vote on this, though, even with the YMCA thing, we're gonna have all those figures as to the cost of everything and where the money's coming from, future and stuff.
Yep. So there'll also be a lease agreement with them, so they'll be leasing the space from us. I'm just trying to help with some grant funding from outside organizations as well as from the county commissioners and local businesses so that we can get this program up and running. The initial upfront cost is going to be the expensive part, but then we have that lease agreement in place and we can renew that as a 3-year or a 5-year agreement, however we want to do that, with a cost attached to it for them to use that space. So to me, it becomes a revenue source over time after the initial investment. But it also offers a service in our community that we don't currently have. But yes, you will see the numbers that go with it. Levi was out today and in the crawl space, I was down there with him. We're looking at where the plumbing comes through and where we can have access to be able to put this stuff, so it'll be an option.
The bathrooms are one of the most expensive rooms to install, so.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna be that bad, because when we were looking down here, part of the reason we chose the library, we've got asbestos underneath this tile down here. So that was gonna be almost
Pricey.
20 grand right off the top.
Yes, very
Um,
pricey.
So when we shifted to looking at other spaces, when we found that the library had that crawl space underneath it and the plumbing is right there, I think we're talking like 12 feet of plumbing underneath to be able to get this into that bathroom, and then that'll put 2 sinks on the exterior wall for them to access, as well as 2 bathroom spaces internally. And the only space we're losing is the closet that's full of junk and a maintenance closet that's full of bolts and nuts, which can be slid right over to the office that's not being used right next to it. So I don't know that we're necessarily losing space that we're not currently using. Our Dickinson employee would need a different office space, but I think we've got room for that.
But we're also giving them that's like the air conditioned rooms, so the cost and all that is gonna need to be figured in,
Mhm.
which I'm sure you're working on.
Yep, so that's what we looked at, and the reason we went with the air conditioned space is because it's a 12-month program, so it'll continue throughout the summer. So we thought it would be better to put them in an air conditioned space that we're currently air conditioning and not using throughout the summer.
Because I have 2 pages of questions about that, but I wanna wait till you get some figures back. I don't wanna just sit here for 2 hours.
Anyone have any questions about the budget? Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay, so we can move on to 3 facilities.
Nothing under facilities.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to B, curriculum, personnel, and extracurricular.
On the personnel, we have some conference requests. Let me start with this one. So, as you guys know, we're struggling to fill elective positions right now. There are 8 art graduates in the state of Pennsylvania coming out this year, and I can guarantee you none of them will want to work worth of 8. So we're gonna have to find other options to be able to start to fill some electives. My request to you is to put a general motion together that gives us the ability to post elective teaching positions, a broad spectrum. Doesn't mean we're gonna fill them all. But what we're looking for is something that we can use multiple certifications for in both buildings, so that we can offer a more diversified education with elective courses being filled. The hard part is gonna be matching up K-12 type electives that we can fill. I think we've got some options with revamping the libraries and possibly putting librarians in place. I think we've got options with some business and computer science stuff, or basic computer operations stuff. We've also got the possibility of family consumer science coming down to the elementary level and offering that as an elective to some degree. It would be a different approach than what the high school would, but there's multiple elective certifications out there that aren't necessarily positions that we've had in the district in the past. So for me to open it up and see what's out there on the market, I think we're gonna have to open that pretty broad. If you guys are all right with that, what I'll do is put a motion on the agenda that it's just a general statement saying that we can post elective teaching positions for both buildings and take it from there based on the certifications that we've seen in the state of Pennsylvania. That sound like a plan? And then
I guess I'd like.
And then
to
we'll
know
make a
what
decision
electives-
of what position we can fill based on the applicants that we have, right? Because 3 years ago, there were 20,000 education graduates coming out of the state of Pennsylvania. This year, there's 6,000 total. There's a huge decline in teachers across the board, and it's just kids aren't going to college for teaching anymore. They don't care about insurance. They don't want to come out making $40,000, and insurance isn't important to them. So they'd rather go get a degree where they come out making 65 or 70 and not get any insurance. And I don't blame them, right? But because we have a contract that our teachers are all under, our hands are tied on what we can offer new hires. So I think we're gonna have to start thinking outside the box and start to diversify the course offerings that people are teaching based on the certifications that we currently have on our staff, as well as what we can hire. So if you guys are all right with that, me posting the general motion on the agenda for us to open up elective teaching positions. Then we can take the electives that are listed and post those positions and see what we get, and then make a decision from there. Because we've had that art position posted for a year and a half. Right?
And are we posting that anywhere else besides our school district?
Yeah, we put an extra $1,500 in my budget this year just to be able to post it on the larger networks of job placements.
It's just a shame
Takes membership.
because
What
we
is
did
it,
So much with
PA?
our department here.
Hmm?
That's all I heard for years. All the years I've been on here, art was like one of the main things when Jesse taught there and everything, and it's just.
Yep.
It's sad to see it.
Yeah, it's not that we're not trying to fill it, it's just that there's 8 graduates literally in the state of Pennsylvania. I reach out to every university that offers an art program. That's what we've got to work with. Now, I can make an internal transfer involuntarily and shut our shop program down if you'd like, but I don't think that solves the problem for us, because that's even harder to find than an art teacher, right? Like, I can make drastic moves if all we care about is art, but unfortunately, it's across the board. I can tell you that when Mr. Kemp retires, trying to fill those science positions is going to be just as impossible, because there aren't many science graduates coming out with multiple certifications on their degrees. So this is a
Feels to
battle.
me like the high school
This is a battle that
lower
we're going to be fighting for a long period of time.
than we've ever had, like in numbers of teachers and electives and stuff. It's just a lot smaller than it used to be. It's just sad.
And our student population is continuously decreasing too. So it's really difficult to hold an elective course with 3 kids in it, right? Like that's hard to justify financially too.
But some things we have to offer. I don't know, it's just killing me. But,
Right, and if we want to get into what we have to offer versus what we don't have to offer,
oh, I
I
have
mean,
the list. I know.
you've seen what the state mandated requirements are. It's
We went that
completely,
path years ago. I don't
it's
like
half
that
of what
path.
we offer currently. Right? And it's not that I'm trying to go that route by
I
any
know.
means, but it's just extremely difficult to fill those positions.
If I could just
Hmm?
jump in, it's not typical for me to speak out. I contacted Clay University, they no longer have art program. Sugar Rock has reduced and or cut their art program. And Edinburgh has one, and we have posted in the fall for the position. So Mr. Hamburger's made calls, I've made calls, we have it posted with PA Educator, which is a Pittsburgh-based job service.
It's your largest one.
And it's difficult, and just basically what Mr. Hamburger is looking for and what we discussed is if we change the perspective is we're not looking to hire a specific teacher to teach a specific class. We're looking for almost a cafeteria type approach. Let's see what's out there and then get a qualified, competent employee, and we'll craft a schedule based around what additional certifications they bring to the table and what we have currently. And whether it be business, whether it be art, whether it be library, whatever. And then we expand not just the numbers of our staff, because we are, we're running out of people. But we expand those courses as well.
I hear what you're saying and I understand it. It's just like Mr. Hoffman said, music and art has been the heart of the schools since I've lived in this community all those years. And it just feels like we're losing the heart of our school by not having those strengths in there. So I know you guys are trying. It's just sad.
It is.
And if there were people and if there was agreement, I would recommend, a full-time art, full-time music building. But there aren't the applicants. There aren't applicants. And
Can't hire what's not out there.
it's not high with that. And
And if you look at
there's
what the state level is doing right now, they're changing certification requirements for people to be able to teach things, for people to be able to sub, just for people to be able to work in schools, they're changing the requirements. It just changed the principal certification that you don't even have to have a master's degree because there's a shortage across the board in education. So these are problems that are way above our heads that we can't necessarily address, but we're in the trench dealing with those problems. So it's kind of where we're at. I think it's going to be a constant battle that we're going to fight for a while until we see either an influx from the state and the federal level in educational funding. And I think the fair funding trial that's going on right now could help us in that aspect. But until something like that happens, I don't see a large increase in your educational graduates. So it's going to be a constant problem.
This isn't unique to education.
It's not, it's everywhere. It is. It is. There's a workforce shortage, and what are we trying to do? We're trying to shift our educational approach to workforce development, right? We want to push kids out into the workforce. So figuring out what those kids want to do by the time they get out of here is our entire goal. So we can put them on a course track, and then hopefully they return to their home community and we can employ them. That's the goal, right? That's the universal design approach to our educational platform now. But that takes time. So kind of where we're at.
I guess the one last thing I'll say is, time is not on our side. And I share with Mr. Hamburger that the longer that we wait to do this broad advertising delays the schedule. Because I can't ask kids to pick courses that we don't know we're offering yet.
And also eliminate the applicants that have been hired elsewhere, things like that. We want to try and get out in front of this as much as we possibly can. Like, kids aren't even done student teaching yet, but I can tell you that we'll be reaching out to the university saying we have these positions available and we want to see your candidates. So that's why we're going to try and do it now. So we can take it on to conference request if you guys are good. Yeah. So for item B, we have Mrs. Yohe going to the PASBO conference, Mr. Howard to attend the AD's conference, Ms. Emmerich, the PA Federal Programs Coordinators Conference, and myself, the PARS Conference in State College. So all those costs are listed. 2C, we have Mrs. Frank as a long-term substitute, effective January 17th through June 3rd. She's going to continue to fill that science position for us for the rest of the year. We do have 2 requests for unpaid leave. Both of the employees aren't necessarily going to take those, but due to the COVID restrictions and then having to take days, they basically expended their number of days. So this is just an upfront approach for us to be able to approve those days. If something would come up, they would have them to use as unpaid leave, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take 15 straight days of unpaid leave or that they're going to take all of it for that matter. 2E is the PSBA Super Eval tool. We had previously approved it. I know that was a discussion that Kale and I had, and I just wanted you guys to make sure you're aware that we did approve it already, so we're covered to use that tool again, which we'll discuss tonight. So that's all we have under personnel. Is there any questions?
I do, just let me, is everything budgeted for all those conferences?
Yes, they are.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, so we can move on to extracurricular.
Yep, so we have Shayla Bickle as a softball volunteer pending receiving meeting documentation. And we have the following for other positions: Jenny Norton as a sophomore class advisor, Carter Stedman as a ticket taker, scorekeeper, timekeeper, and Jeffrey Bonney as the baseball scorekeeper. That's all we have there.
Any questions on any of that? Okay, we're gonna move on to C, safety and security.
I do have some executive content to discuss with you guys in executive session under safety and security. So I'll hold that for them.
Okay. D, COVID update.
Status quo, we had to go virtual there for a week recently. That was not what we were looking to do, but situations kind of put us in that position. So that's all I have.
Okay. Anyone got any questions or concerns on that?
Just an observation, and I know there, you gave us the update to possible legal stuff going on. Do you have any idea, is that a current or is that a upcoming, like, timeframe? Is it in motion?
Yeah, so there's different legal battles going on in different states right now with federal judges doing different things at that level as well. To me, it's kind of like sit back and let it shake out and see where the chips fall before we make a decision, because right now I think we're on the safe side of those decisions. So I'd rather be on the safe side as opposed to the wrong side of this. That, and we've seen just in the last 2 weeks, the variant that is coming through has been substantial with our number of students that we've sent home or had temperatures with, things like that. I'm sure you guys are seeing that at the hospital too, but it's here finally. It took a little bit longer for that to get up here than it did.
We're about a month behind.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yep. So I'm hoping that maybe by the end of March, beginning of April, we can start to look at things a little differently. To be honest though, I don't know if this is truly ever going to change. I think we're still going to be doing backpack sprayers in classrooms. We're still going to be worried about the unvaccinated. We're still going to be worried about passing the virus on, even if you are vaccinated and not up to date. Like, I hate to say this, but I think honestly, this is our new norm, unfortunately, until we can find something that beats it. Right? And
That's, I'm just
Frustrating.
putting it out there because it's my own pet peeve of, we're the only school district mandating the masks. Our attendance from there is a couple percent points difference. We're a couple percentage points better. I don't, I'm no statistics major, so I can't tell you, the significance number of kids that involves, but 88 to 92 with the numbers that we have is a matter of a handful of kids, if my math is correct. Just, I read a pretty good quote the other day that the mask that we wear with these kids is keeping the virus out is like trying to keep the mosquitoes out of your house with a chain link fence. I'm not gonna bore you with the size of it. That's the best analogy they could come up with. So we may be doing more harm than good is all I'm saying. Because of the kids, if you look at the masks that most of those kids come in with, there's probably a good number of them that haven't been washed.
Or people that are
Once
wearing
versus
it down under their nose.
Right.
That's
That's what
not-
I'm saying. I don't know that it's doing the good that they tell us it's supposed to do.
That's the problem though, Doug, is you got half the doctors saying something, half saying another. And I mean, I saw 5 doctors in 2 weeks. And every one of them has a different opinion about how things should be done. And who are you supposed to trust if those are the people that are in that field? So how do you make a decision? That's why I said it shouldn't be up to us and the board, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So currently the DOH and CDC's recommendation is still to mask in schools. Obviously, they took the mandate away and still made that the recommendation. I would say they're more expert than we are as a board. But that my suggestion is that we continue with that until we can see a decrease and feel safer and aren't gonna see an uptick in case or an uproar from the community that we're not creating a safe environment for the students.
Are we still in this severe range? Like last, I did a thing every week on my phone. I got it this week and we were at the.
Yeah, remember when it was like red, yellow, and green, and then they shifted it to severe or something, changed it.
From high to
Data
severe.
hasn't changed though, and we're still up at the top end of that. I would say when we get to moderate, we can start to consider taking some of the restrictions away, maybe.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to E, reports.
Report for cash, anybody have anything else to add?
I just wanted to say I enjoyed the reports. Keeps me, right with what's going on in school, because I feel like, not here. I have 2 grandchildren that never tell me anything that's going on. in school. I do enjoy reading those reports and catching up with what's going on in the schools and stuff. Y'all do a good job.
One item that I neglected was the mock trial students advanced to the 2nd or 3rd round, and they lost to St. Mary's and put them in 3rd place in the competition.
That's
I think I forgot about it because it was ongoing and I just forgot. Hats off to Mrs. Cook and students involved in that. It was multiple meetings and virtual and live and oh, now I'm embarrassed. I can't remember our advisor's name. We have a attorney that worked with kids and he coached and we're doing a lot of time.
Stedman. The last name was Stedman.
Thank you, Stedman. Thank you.
Awesome.
And it is a lot of time because my son does it and it's unreal the amount of time. And I think it's a very good thing in our school should take pride in it. Like my son himself even got written by the judge that he should be a lawyer and that's like, and he wrote so many good things about all our students on there. It was amazing to see what we have in our school and we should be very proud of him.
All right. Anybody else? Good.
I'm sorry.
We had a wellness committee meeting tonight, and they're focusing on staff wellness and ideas. And that includes some cross-country skiing, snowshoes, looking at the supply at the high school, seeing what we like there, as well as some ideas for spring, such as, I guess, last time they did the trail down by the park and directionally dysfunctional. 160 people showed up for the function, so they're talking about things like that. Just getting everybody out and active and, you know, increasing health and wellness that way as well.
Okay.
I do have a report to read too.
Okay.
Mine's a little bit long, since it's a whole page, but I'm gonna try and get through it without having trouble reading and that. But, first I'd like to congratulate Laura Johnson of Pottstown School District as PSA recognized her as a 2021 inductee into the Alvin Society. It's an honor school directors, it's an honor school director. It's an honor school directors who are outstanding leaders and advocates for public schools and students. So congratulations to Laura for that honor. PSBA is pushing for House Bill 955, which provides more flexible options for school districts to use in complying with the current legal advertising requirements. This has to do with going from only in-print advertisement to allowing the schools to use the internet app, which is saving money and time. Governor Wolf will be unveiling his new spending plan, the state budget tomorrow, February 8th. If you don't get to hear it or read it, or you're interested in diving into the numbers and listening to a discussion on how it will impact the public education deeper, the board members can register for a complimentary webinar tomorrow, or the 9th, I'm sorry, to join PSBA's Government of Affairs at noon. It's an hour long on February 9th, and this will discuss the fiscal impacts of Governor Wolf's 22-23 state budget, and you can submit your own questions. As always, this is a very informative webinar for school directors who can make the time to listen to it. The federal government has announced it will increase the number of COVID-19 tests available to schools by 10 million per month. This includes sending 5 million no-cost point-of-care tests per state at a state request, and 5 million additional lab-based PCR tests for free to schools per month. Schools can immediately gain access to this. If you'd like a copy of the fact sheet, you can go to ed.gov. All ARP ESSER awards are to be sent to the school district by March 24th, and then districts must submit their applications as soon as possible. So PDE can review, approve, and award the money to the schools. There is a maintenance of equity requirement that applies to both 21-22 and 22-23 school years. That says schools cannot disproportionately reduce state and local per pupil funding or the number of full-time equivalent staff per pupil in high poverty schools. They will be sending this to the superintendent with information on how to do it if it does have to be done. 2022 state procurement thresholds were updated for written telephonic bids. It is 11,800, while the 2022 threshold for public bids and separate bids is 21,900 now. If you'd like to see the rules for use of ESSER funds and the relationship between state and federal funds, you can go to the newsletter at www.education.pa